I did want to bring up, because you mentioned, you got my noodle going a little bit here as I'm thinking about high ceiling, low floor guys. You brought that up with the Broncos, but I'm curious, do you view anybody on Nebraska like that for this year, where they're like, you could see like, oh, I could see this going really, really well, or just him not being a factor at all? Have you thought about those types of guys at all for Nebraska yet this year?
Not really. I'm a gun to my head trying to think of somebody.
And it doesn't have to be low floor, like in terms of, I just mean for this year, where it's like, hey, they either could contribute a ton, or maybe not be able to crack the rotation in a way that's meaningful.
Oh, I got one.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You want to get him going a little bit?
I have one too. We'll see if it's the same person.
What position, Bruntzy?
Defensive line.
Ooh, I was gonna go defensive backs.
Ooh.
I think Jeremiah Charles could be that guy.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Well, thank you guys. I'm glad you're on. Thank you. Bartles and James, thank you for your support.
I mean, my thought was, you kind of know a little bit with what you got with James Williams, right? Like, he feels like a really high ceiling guy. I just don't know. Is he an every down guy yet? Like I feel like 12 games of him, that intrigues me. I think there's a lot of potential for that. I don't know what the baseline looks like,
I feel like I love him.
You do. You've got a little man crush.
Is that weird?
It's okay.
Like, Bronzy, I know I'm not like, like Mr. Tough guy, but that was a little softy sounding, but I do kind of feel like I love James Williams.
Yeah, no, I'm intrigued by it. I mean, I think he's one of those guys that you talk to, and like, he's got a pretty good perspective on things. I feel like.
Yes.
That's where he got DB.
Yes. He is such a real life person. Like, he his warts, what's good, he is so authentic. It's captivating.
Yeah. When he committed after that whole thing last, the tryout and whatnot last year, it was kind of like, okay, this guy, is extremely productive in high school, has to go off to JUCO because of grades. I think there's probably a humbling aspect of that. And I think he kind of sees everything for what it is. And, I think we talked to him one time after a game last year, and it was just, he had perspective that I think a guy that is in his first year of college football probably shouldn't have had. Like, I don't know, like that kind of stood out to me, but he's 250 now. He still looks like, like he could probably stand to gain 20 more pounds, but
yeah, still super lean.
Yeah. They call him sticks for a reason, I guess. Right. And, but yeah, I think I'm intrigued by what that can be, what the ceiling is there. I just don't know if he's, in there on first down against Wisconsin yet. You know what I mean?
Bruntz, I had a guy on the offensive side of the ball that I was thinking about.
Oh, wow. Are we all three different?
I think, we are, because you didn't guys say anybody on offense.
But so
can you guess?
No pressure.
Yeah.
But you guys said good pick for me. Yeah. We said good pick for Bruntz.
Yeah, no, mine's probably not.
Will we say a good pick for Bruntsy? What are your thoughts? Will we say good pick for Robbie?
If I had to guess, no.
All right, let her rip.
What do you got?
I think Malachi Coleman falls in that category.
That's a great pick.
He has obviously all the ability in the world.
That's a great pick.
But it's a crowded room. I don't know who. There's going to be somebody left out there, right? And guys that are getting major snaps.
That is a fantastic pick.
Well, you didn't say good pick, so technically I was right. You didn't say.
But wouldn't you agree with that, Bruntz? I think he's spot on.
Yeah, no, I think.
We've gone a whole offseason without talking about Isaiah Garcia Castaneda, and he's going to play.
Yeah, like that's what I mean. There's so many guys in that room
it's like
that I think are going to play, that somebody's going to get left out of some snaps.
Yeah, no, they had a legit 2.5 deep at that practice on Saturday, and you didn't even have Jalen Lloyd out there. I'm always skeptical about wide receiver depth and talking about wide receiver depth until it gets to the season.
I know, because then you blank and they can't even like have 3 units, right?
Right.
You go from like 13 wide receivers to 7 and you're thin.
Yeah, or like when you thought like, oh, we got 10 guys, like, oh, you probably have about 6. Like that's usually how it goes. But no, I mean, I that's a good pick. There's a couple wide receivers I think in that group that could find themselves either very much in the mix or very much out of it.
I do think the reason I went with Malik, and I agree. I think there's a couple guys in that group where you could be like, yeah, I could see them either being like a major contributor or barely playing in terms of meaningful snaps. I went with Malachi because of the ceiling. I think physically his ceiling,
super high ceiling.
Yeah, physically his ceiling I think is as high as anybody's in that room, maybe with the exception of Nair. I think Nair's ceiling is probably in that same neighborhood. But yeah, that's a guy that I'm just like, I don't know. I have no expectation level for him at all this year. I have no idea what to expect.
Yeah, no, that's very fair. And I mean, you know, he was limited in the spring, so I mean that's a piece of it too. You don't know where he's at coming back from that. I mean, he could be very much like, you know, back in the mix, what everybody thought he was going to be, or you know, trying to catch up with Banks and Nair at those outside spots.
Yeah, it's interesting.
That's a good one.
Catching, thank you.
It is. I hate saying it because
he doesn't like giving me credit.
It's rare, but I mean, you know, guys, we're kind of forgetting about too. Like, there's Bonner, there's Castaneda, there's Lloyd, there's Coleman, there's Banks, there's it's my little guy that stole the spring show, Ja'Cory Barney.
Yeah,
like, I mean, they got a lot of guys, and you got 3 tight ends that can all catch passes. Like, there's only so many balls. Somebody's going to have to hang in there, right? Where you clearly have to understand that this is a marathon and not a sprint.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even you throw a guy like Carter Nelson into that mix, he's kind of the same way, isn't he?
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I kind of think I think about Carter a little bit differently just because of the true freshman nature of it all. And we look at this wide receiver group as, you know, last year, obviously we got to a point where it's like, oh man, they better get the true freshman in there. I'm hoping that doesn't get to the point this year where if a true freshman does play, it's because, oh man, they're just playing really, really well, whether that's Barney or Carter or somebody else.
I always look at him like, who's he going to jump and how different will it be?
There's a lot of guys in front of him.
You know what I mean? Like,
it like a position that others play.
Well, yeah. Right. I mean, he's like he's going to be an X or a Z. Right. They have, I don't know, like I'm just thinking in my head as you guys say his name, and it's not a talent issue. It's how pressed are we? Is there another, like, is it going to be an offense where we throw a guy a jump ball? I don't know. I don't think so.
The question was high ceiling or not at all, right?
Yeah. Super high, yeah. I mean, I get So I love how Bruntz did that. You see how he just like wait.
Just answer the question that's asked. That's all.
Yeah.
No, it's fair. That's fair. Carter.
That's fair.
Bruntz, I do think a lot
his delivery.
I
do not love Michael Bruntz.
I do think there is some interesting stuff in that wide receiver room. I also think now the reason I didn't go running backs here is because I don't know, and I know I've been a hater, quote unquote, on this.
Well, you guys are.
I don't know that there's anybody in the running back room that I consider to have a terribly high ceiling. But I have no idea what to expect from any of them. So that's what, like, how do you read the running back room kind of, not in the exact terms of that question, but in terms of what to expect versus likely having guys that are probably not going to contribute that we think that at this point we think may?
Yeah, I guess like in my mind now, like a week and a half into this thing, like you kind of have to organize the running backs, I feel like, by tiers. Like I don't know that it's like, you know, when a depth chart comes out the first week of the season, you're going to have somebody at number 1, but like it feels like that group of like Irvin, Johnson, and Johnson. You could probably you're probably going to be able to shift those guys around a little bit. And I don't know that there's a 1,000-yard rusher among them.
Is it just me, or didn't Mekhi Nelson look a little bouncy?
He did.
He looked twitchy.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's. I think with him, it was kind of like, it took people a while to see it.
Yeah. Now he's little, but
yeah.
Gosh, he was kind of bursty.
Yeah. I mean, he's probably in that second tier with Ives and Dowdell, and I'm trying to think of who else would be in that group.
I wish Ives, he's got such those thin legs, but he's got some wiggle too. Like he's a good natural runner. He's just very light.
Yeah. Well, he was the one guy when they updated the weights. He went from like 185 to like 210 or something like that. Like it was kind of like, oh, okay, that's interesting at least. I mean, he's probably going to factor on special teams, I guess. I think a few of those guys will from that running back room, but yeah, I still don't know what to make of that group, and it feels like what we're going to get from that group and what we're going to see is going to be largely dependent on kind of what happens around them too, with the offensive line and whether or not Nebraska is going to be able to actually force teams out of like a 9-man box. You know what I mean? So.
I bet you and Schaefer are a ton of fun at parties when you're talking about running backs. And then you guys invite Ravi over too, just for like really set it off.
It's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I'm going with what I've got in the past, and I mean that's a group that needs to kind of stand up and be counted. I think they can be. They're going to have to be, because I don't think they're going to run the quarterback nearly as much as they did last year, and that's okay. But I just don't. I don't know. You're kind of Hattiesburg this. Like you're kind of creating a 1,200-yard rusher in the aggregate. Fabio.
Yeah, that's a T-shirt. There's like a handful of people that know what he's talking about.
And most of them are at this table right now.
That is definitely a T-shirt.
How Bruntz, how fluid do you think those first and second tiers are? Because I know, I know some people are going to hear you put Dowdell in that second tier, and it's going to give them a little indigestion.
Nah. I'm with you.
No to indigestion or no tears.
I'm with you, Bruntz. I because I kind of disagree with what Ravi said, because I think after the spring game, because we're quick to rush to judgment. We're like, oh yeah, he's not fast enough. I don't like that guy. And an hour earlier it was like, oh, I want to see Dowdell. So it's like, I don't know if we have an expectation level on him.
Right. I think that's kind of, there's like caveats all around that room. I thought Gabe Irvin looked okay in some runs on Saturday. He's got to stay on the field. Ramir Johnson's kind of the same way. And, both of those guys have never, really kind of made it 100% through a full year yet. I think Emmett Johnson's, showed that he can do some things last year. And I think he's probably at the front of that group, but you still need to see it a little bit more.
I'm captivated by Gabe Irvin, because sometimes I just want to know how guys can run the ball like that, being that thickly built.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of a medical wonder for me. I'm just intrigued by it, because it seems like that would be incredibly difficult. So I always appreciate when guys are built like that and can still tote the rock.
Yeah. No, I even think last year before he got hurt, I felt like he was kind of trending in a positive direction for the first time in his Nebraska career. So I don't know. I guess I'm not negative about that group. I think a little bit of healthy skepticism is probably just warranted, given the histories of a lot of guys in that group. Like I think they can find somebody. I think they can find multiple guys, but I don't know that that's going to be something that's settled, in stone by, in non-conference play. It feels fluid to me.
Well, I'm a big Barthel guy, so And I'm a former back, right? So I'm gonna go backs. Be great.
You also you mischaracterize my position on the backs. I have often said I think they're fine. You act like you act like I'm out here being like they're the
Brunsy, like Ravi's the guy you'll take out and you'll be eating one of your, mushroom gravy deals and you'll be like, hey, this is great. And Ravi goes, oh, it's fine. And no, but I really, really like it. Like, come on,
it's
man.
fine. Yeah, it's fine. Like, listen, I'm not as high on them as you are. I'm not pretending that I am, but I'm also not sitting out here being like they're the weak link in the team. They will be the downfall of the 2024 Huskers. Like, they're fine. I think they are functional. I think you can get what you need out of them. I also don't think any one of them is particularly special. I think that's a fair characterization of this group without seeing them yet.
Just being a running back makes them special.
Is that why you're so special, DP?
Yes. Yes. I see what you guys did to me this whole segment. That was cute. Appreciate the Millard North, crime.
Stangs roll together.
Yeah, good job, guys. feel better about myself. Jerks. Brunsy, I do got one to get you out of here, though.
Okay.
And you were right in front of me, and I didn't know for a while, so I apologize until I left. But you're watching the special teams, and you're sitting with BC, and you're thinking what?
I'm thinking about a lot of one-score games. That's what I'm thinking about. Obviously, Tristan Alvano still wasn't kicking the other night. I thought the backup kickers, the guys behind him, actually looked okay to me. They both hit from the low 40s. I mean, that was okay. Punting, that was a little of a concern. I think the special teams piece of it, you don't really know for sure until you get into the season and you're in games and the lights are on and all that stuff. But, I think, when you're talking about the chasing three stuff and winning tight games and that kind of thing, that's the area you got to get buttoned up. And I think it was still early in fall camp. And, the one thing I'll say, though, is for as much depth as this team has at different spots at, defensive back and linebacker and things like that. I mean, I think the coverage units should hopefully be pretty good. I mean, I think they've got enough talent there to cover well. It's just a matter of whether the specialists are can get a little bit better from where they were last year.
That's Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7. Brunsy, we appreciate the time as always. And you know what? I hope you have a great weekend, Bruntz.
Hey, I appreciate that. You guys too. I hope it's a great one.
Thanks, Bruntz. Your sincerity is just like dripping. Dripping.
He's sincere. That's just how he sounds.
Oh, I know.
That's very sincere. That's my sincere voice.
Thanks, Brunsy.
You guys.